I think that the companies that have been making these have also struggled with what they want to do with them. And I feel like they have not made a very firm decision on if they're going to remake something or if they're going to adapt it. And that's been part of the problem is they are feeling wishy-washy because I don't think audiences know what they want either. Because when you take a movie and you brought up Aladdin, when you take Aladdin, you watch this movie and there are people that are like, oh, I didn't like that. I like when they did this in the cartoon. They should have done it like that way in the cartoon. And then you have other people that are like, well, it was too safe. It was too similar to the cartoon. They didn't deviate enough. So like nobody's happy because they're kind of in between. So I think it depends. I think it depends on the property. But I would also, for most part, I would agree with you that I would rather see an adaptation where you keep the important beats of a story, like the iconic moments. And this is why I liked How to Train Your Dragon, because it keeps like the points of the movie that I remember from the original that I thought were big moments, and it has those in there. But in between, it's following the general story path, but it's not a shot for shot recreation. The iconic shots are there, the ones that, you know, when he has his hand out and he touches the dragon for the first time on the nose, like you want that in the movie because that was that was the defining moment of the original. So if you don't have that, then it'd be like, what is that? But when you go look at Aladdin,
what are those?
What are those? When you watch Aladdin, you could tell that they were trying to do more with it. And I can appreciate that. Did you see the movie? Did you see the Aladdin remake?
No, I
so they give
to see it for various reasons.
They give Jasmine an additional song in the movie. And the song's not bad. The performer, the actress is, I don't know what it's called. It's like, I Won't Be Silent or something like that, or I Won't Be Speechless.
Oh, that song. Dude, I heard about that song.
The song is fine. The actress she's a fine actress. She's a great singer. Great, fine. But the problem is they didn't
like, that's like all this shit that you say about like your son's shitty girlfriend that you don't. She was a perfectly nice girl.
It was a perfectly nice song. But the problem was that it did not make sense within the other part of the story. And you miss the mark of what that character is supposed to be, because Jasmine was not a silent character in the original cartoon. She was a firm, assertive woman in that. And in this movie, she's the same way, but then she sings this thing about not being speechless. But then they take it out when the song finishes, you see that she's not singing it to anybody. She's just singing it to herself. So it makes no sense. And it falls flat because you just shoehorned a piece in there because you're like, I want to put this thing in here to wave this flag of, you know, hey, I'm being strong, but it's done in like a totally backwards way. So it doesn't work.
I mean, like,
you did see the genie in that though, right? You did see the genie and what he looked like, right?
No, actually, I didn't.
Oh my gosh. Oh, Google it. I want to see your face. I want to see your reaction right now. Google what Will Smith as the genie looked like in that movie, and if I liked popcorn, I would be eating it right now.
Okay, Will Smith as the genie in the live action Aladdin.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Aladdin images. It's just him. It painted blue. He's a Smurf. He's an avatar now.
No, his head is weird. He's got like a big bulbous head.
He's bald. He's a bald dude. What do you mean?
It looks so scary. It looks so bad.
I mean, it looks terrible. Absolutely, they could have gotten better body paint, but
you can't tell his head looks goofy. Look at his whole body. Everything about him looks weird. Like his proportions are weird. His head is got a weird shape up top. Like everything about it. The promotional art, I think, hides some of that. So maybe that's what you're seeing on your end. I can't see what your screen is looking like right now.
I'm seeing like stills.
But when you're watching,
what I assume are the movie,
and doesn't it look horrifying? It is like straight up nightmare fuel.
I don't know about horrifying.
I did not care for it at all. I found it very unsettling. Like when they announced that they were going to do a live action Aladdin movie, my first thought was, how are you going to do the genie? Because Robin Williams was iconic as that character. And then they announced that it's
So
going to be Will Smith. And I'm like, all right, you know what? If you got somebody that's going to be the genie, like Will Smith sounds like a pretty good casting choice. And
no,
honestly, he performed the character fine.
disagree. Wholeheartedly
Who
disagree.
would you have
Like
casted
this
for the genie?
movie with no one can measure up to Robin Williams. This was a
No,
horrible
I
idea
agree.
from the start.
Nobody can measure up to Robin Williams, but I appreciate the fact that Will Smith wasn't trying to be Robin Williams in that role, because I think a lot of actors would have. They would have tried to play it the same way as Robin Williams, and it would not have worked out well.
Sure.
So he gave it its own thing, and it still has its big over the top energy. And I thought he played the character well. Like, he played it well. It's not Robin Williams, but it doesn't feel like you're shortchanging the genie. However,
Okay.
when you look at him,
It's not what people said.
holy hell, is like, I didn't care for the way he looked at all. It
I mean,
looked
like, I
terrifying.
don't know that I necessarily. Here's the thing: I have such low expectation for these live action versions where nothing really surprises me because I just assume that they're gonna botch it.
The other thing I think is wrong with these things is a lot of these are being adapted from musicals, and there's non-human characters in them. And I think anytime you take a non-human character and you make them sing with human words, it looks weird. It's a very uncanny valley type of thing to witness. I don't like that most of the time either. But that's
I
why
mean,
the Jungle Book one I thought was pretty good.
really?
I thought Jungle Book was well shot. It looked good, and you had a human character that was kind of anchoring it from the beginning. Mowgli is like an actual person.
No, but I want to like attempt to answer your question of like the audience doesn't know what they want out of these. And I think they do. And I think the answer is that they don't want it, which I think brings us to, well, so then why do they pay to go see it? And I think that this is it's like the whole nostalgia thing, and it's the reason that so many companies are doubling down on IP because they
Yeah.
know they know that you will buy a ticket if it's a recognizable IP. So it's not that you actually as the audience want it, it's that you've been suckered into buying the ticket because you've been sold this nostalgia factor. Because if you look at the Lion King has sort of been called out for being the closest thing to a remake in these live action versions. So The Lion King was basically a point for point remake where it was like the same movie through and through.
Yeah.
But then they did Mulan, which was totally different, and they
Right.
both flopped. They both did terrible. Everybody hated both of them. So I don't think the audience needs to decide what it is that they want because I think it's pretty clear that the audience doesn't want it. They're just buying
Except
tickets
for
because they've been sold a dream.
no, because except for some of these make $1 billion. They just did
Yeah,
Lilo and Stitch, $1 billion.
yeah,
So
which people went to go see and then complained about because the messaging was all wrong.
right, but people went to go see it, so we're gonna get more of them, I'm sure. But do you know how these things started?
Will.
Do you know how we started with this live adaptation remake thing? Like how these became a thing?
Just assumed it was because the tech was at a point where they were like, "Hey, we could do this cool."
So they had a couple that were kind of done like this back in the 90s, like 101 Dalmatians was done, but it was not a
Oh,
remake. It was
Cruella. That yeah. Okay. The
no,
one
not
the
the
not
Cruella
the
one. That was way later. This was like legitimately 101 Dalmatians. They made a live action movie. Glenn Close, I
Yeah,
think,
this was the
was
one before Selena Gomez. This was like the one from like back
Selena
whenever. I remember.
Gomez. You mean Emma Stone? The
Yeah.
Emma Stone one. This was not, yeah, because then they
Oh,
did an Emma Stone
whoever
Cruella.
whatever actress was in it recently, but
Totally
I
different person, but
I know what
okay.
you're talking about. You're talking. There was a live action. I thought it was called
Yeah.
Cruella, but maybe it was just called 101 Dalmatians. I remember watching it as a
Yep.
kid. That was actually a good movie.
Yeah. And now that was an adaptation because in that they're chain modifying the story a little bit just to make it a movie that was based on 101 Dalmatians, and that worked pretty well. But what actually started this trend was when they did Alice in Wonderland, like Tim Burton did it, and I don't remember what year, early 2000s. But it
Oh,
wasn't supposed to be an
yeah.
adaptation. It was a live action sequel to the cartoon. And the
Right.
studios got the wrong idea because that one did very well. And they're like, oh, people like seeing the other things as live action. But that's not what he was doing. He was making a sequel. But instead, they decided that
It
they're like, we
wasn't
got to do
billed as a
more
sequel.
remakes. It was kind of billed as, it was definitely not billed as a remake. It was called
No, it
Alice in
wasn't.
Wonderland. But when you
It was
watch the
called.
movie,
Yeah, you only figure out when you watch the movie that it is a sequel because you're sort of introduced to this whole idea of Alice is returning to Wonderland.
right, that she's
But
going
as
back.
far as like, yeah, and that's like part of the story, and that's where you can very firmly say this is obviously an adaptation because it's not just remaking the original
Right.
version. But it wasn't
But
sort
it
of billed
tells a
that
whole
way.
new
Like
story.
you didn't, yeah, but you didn't know going into the movie that it was going to be that way. Like I was very surprised by that. Like I
Oh,
mean, like
no.
I didn't know what I expected,
I
but
remember watching the trailer at the time, and I'm like, maybe for like a second when it first starts, you're like, oh, they're making an Alice in Wonderland live action. But as soon as it starts playing and they're talking about, hey, you've returned and all this other stuff, and it's like, oh, this is like a continuation of the
uh,
story. But that I
I
thought was
didn't watch
really
the
good
I
because
didn't watch the trailers, so
you
I
don't
don't
watch
know.
trailers. Yeah.
I
You don't
don't
watch
watch
movies, don't
trailers.
watch trailers. Yeah. Makes it,
I
it's
watch
amazing that
Batman.
you've, yeah, okay. Um, but that one I thought was good because one, you're telling a new story just in the world of Alice in Wonderland with those characters, but it's a totally different
Yeah.
story, which makes it interesting as someone in the audience. But also, you got a director like Tim Burton who has a very definitive, distinctive vision and artistic
Yeah.
style, and he's applying those things into it. And the takeaway that they got was the wrong one because since then they have tried to pump these out and it kind of, they've just become very bland, very, uh,
You know,
nobody
I'm not
knows what
sure.
they're not doing
I'm
anything artistic with them anymore.
I'm not actually sure that I would agree with that. I think that that's where we've gotten. I 100% think that that's where we are. But
Mhm.
didn't Mowgli predate The Lion King? And Mowgli did pretty well, actually. I think that there
Jungle
the
Book did well too. Yeah. So Jungle Book did well. People liked that. John Favreau directed that. And after that came through, Disney was like, John Favreau, you are going to direct a bunch of stuff because this also made a bunch of money. And that one was again very shot very well, and it had an artistic flair to it that John Favreau did a nice job putting that together. But again, it became a point where it was more about just they're like, hey, we don't need to do the fancy stuff with these. We just need to remake the property, and that's when they started to fall off. But I think somewhere in there they lost sight of like, hey, that's what made these good is that it was somebody that was trying to tell a story in an original way because even that's not like a beat for beat remake of the original cartoon. It has the important moments in there, but you get more of like what
No,
they
that's
do
what I'm
with
saying. That's what I'm saying. Like Mowgli or
yeah.
the Jungle Book, whatever that movie was
Mhm.
called. That's what I'm saying is was an adaptation, which I
Yeah,
think is what made it more successful than all of the other ones, and that was the first one that they did, if I'm remembering correctly. But then they had this pivot when they
that was the
did The Lion
first.
King,
Yeah,
and that's when it starts to go downhill because I think that's when you start getting more into this territory of it's kind of more of a remake. I don't know that you can call it purely a remake, but it edges closer to that where to your point it doesn't have an artistic vision.
yeah,
There isn't anything driving, there's no why behind it. This is something that
right.
people get very frustrated with me about because, like, whenever somebody asks me to give them feedback or constructive criticism on a piece that they've done, my first go to question is always, what's the why behind this? And that, like, frustrates a lot of people because, for one, it's a very ethereal idea. Because you, as an artist, have to be very connected to your why. Otherwise, that question makes no sense at all. And that why, if you don't have it, the project has no purpose. It has no driving force behind it. So there's no message that you're trying to tell the audience. And all art is trying to build a bridge. All art is a creator trying to share something about the world or about themselves with the audience. And if you don't have that, the audience knows it. They might not be able to pinpoint exactly what it is. I call it a
Yeah, but if it's
line.
a
Some
cash
people call
grab,
it
you
something
can
else.
yeah, if it's a cash grab, you can feel it. And that's what I think a lot of these have become. You mentioned nostalgia earlier, and that's absolutely a big factor in this. It is the nostalgia cycle. Because if you look back, even outside of film, like right now, I have a 13-year-old, and my 13-year-old is obsessed with like early 2000s stuff. The things that she likes, the aesthetics, the clothing, all that stuff. Nostalgia cycles run about like 20 to 30 years. So like whatever was cool about 20 to 30 years ago has become a thing that's cool now. And all these live action remakes, when did they come out? About 20, 30 years ago. So it is this nostalgia cycle. And from a company's
Yeah, I get
perspective, I
that.
get why they would do it because one, they have the property, so it's an IP based thing, which we already know that studios are lean very heavily into proven IPs because it's less risky than if you're going to come up with a whole new idea. But two, it bolsters the sales of the stuff that they already have at theme parks, at the stuff that they already have at stores. It becomes a reason that
Yeah.
the person who was watching it the first time 30 years ago can go, oh, I remember that thing. I want to go see this new version of it. But also now that group has got kids of their own to go recycle the whole cycle again. So they're taking their kids to it now. And then in 30 years, when they re release the remake and make a new adaptation of the remake that they made of the original, that kid will be taking their kid. It's bonkers.
I mean, like, but it's true. Like, there's like a funny thing that like I grew up with. I don't know if this is a collective experience of humankind, but you like the food that your mom cooks because she's your mom. You like the food that your
Because it's all
mom
you know.
cooks because it's all you
Because,
know.
okay.
And the reason that you like that food is because mom makes it because dad likes it. Like it's the food that dad wants to eat. And it's like this cyclical thing where it's like you're sort of raised on what it is that your parents like. And the same thing is true about music. You listen to the music, you like the music that you like because your parents were playing it in the car when they were driving you around. I like listening to old time radio shows because my dad used to listen to Jack Benny all the time. You like the
And
stuff that your parents like.